Originally, we lived in the first chapter of Genesis, where God formed all that was formed of himself, of spirit, and it was spiritual. Even the crops were in the ground before seeds were planted. Light was here before there was sun in the sky, because it all happened through and as God appearing. It is only when the next chapter comes along and a false sense of creation comes, which Revelation taught me is a mind creation. It is through the mind that we begin to know good and evil. It is through mind that we think that we are creators. And through mind, all limitation comes. Now, when you use your mind not for a creative purpose, but as an avenue of awareness, you'll find a different story. For instance, the story is told of Thomas Edison and his inventions, that whenever he was inventing something, his habit was to put his hand up behind his ear as if he were listening. Then he'd close his eyes, and then he'd come back and say, "Do this." In other words, he wasn't creating anything with his mind. He was listening with his mind, and into that listening awareness came the ideas. Well, so we know is the truth about composers. There never was a composer that invented a melody. There never was a composer that created a melody. A composer is a person who has the gift of settling back into a quiet communion, and then something pours into his awareness, and he writes it down. And so it is with artists and sculptors. Only recently I read the story of Michelangelo standing before his statue of the angel, and a woman saying to him, "Oh, what a great man you must be to do such a wonderful piece of work." And he said, "Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, I didn't put that angel there. That angel was in the stone, and I saw it and just chipped away the parts that weren't needed." Yes, that is the secret, that you don't create. You don't go out and try to be a great I am of yourself. You sit always, whether you need an idea for business, invention, art, music, metaphysics. You don't invent these things or make them up. I hope that our people all know that I never made up anything that's in the Infinite Way writings. These things came to me. I didn't know them when they came. They came to me. I never thought them out. They flowed from somewhere within me, because when it happened, I'm listening. Now, it's the same as I do when I'm sitting here talking to you. Inwardly, I'm always listening. Always listening. And there are times when I stop myself in the middle of what I'm saying and say something else, because I've just heard something else. And it's come. Now, once you begin to perceive the nature of God, you'll know that because of omnipresence, God is here and now where we are. The very place whereon thou standest is holy ground. If you go up to heaven, it is. If you go down into hell, it is. If you go through the valley of the shadow of death, it also is holy ground, for God is there. Now, as you learn to live in that realization that where I am, God is, wherever it is, then fulfillment starts to flow, and God begins to appear as the harmonies of your existence. God does not give you supply. When you attain the realization of God's presence, it appears as supply. God appears as supply. God never gives anyone health. Ill health is a sense of separation from God. Therefore, when you attain a realization of God's omnipresence, your health appears. It was there always. God can't take away your health or give it back to you. Your health is always omnipresent in God. But when you entertain a sense of separation from God, you entertain a sense of separation from health, from supply, from companionship, from home, from inspiration, from art, literature, music. But when you begin to understand that God is an infinite, invisible, divine presence, ever present where I am, and you learn to live in that, practice it, morning, noon, and night, whether or not you have any evidence of it at the moment. Something within you must tell you it's true. Where I am, God is. Whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I make my bed in hell, thou art there. And as you commence to acknowledge where God is, I am. Where I am, God is. Because we are one, not two. God is the substance, I am the form. You might just well try to separate glass from tumbler. You can't. And you can't separate God from me. But you can entertain a sense of separation. And entertaining a sense of separation acts to keep from you the realization or demonstration of God in infinite form and variety.